Commander Thelvok's communication display lit up with the most beautiful shade of green he had seen all cycle. Mission accomplished, target destroyed, 0 casualties on their side. He leaned back in his command chair, all 4 of his arms spreading wide in satisfaction. Well, he said to his bridge crew, mandibles clicking in what passed for a Krithian smile. Looks like the humans forgot to shield their military staging ground. How tragically incompetent of them, Lieutenant Voss chirped from the tactical station, her carapace gleaming under the ship's bioluminescent panels. Sir, the strike package reports complete structural collapse. The target has been reduced to rubble and scattered particles. Estimated enemy casualties are, well, all of them. Excellent work, Lieutenant. Truly excellent. Thelvok tapped his primary claw against the armrest, producing a rhythmic clicking sound. Mark this in the log, will you? Date, time, coordinates. I want full credit for this operation when High Command reviews our performance metrics. The thing about humans, Thelvok mused internally while his crew celebrated around him, was that they were just so soft, physically soft, militarily soft, strategically soft. They had wandered into galactic politics barely 2 generations ago, all wide-eyed and eager, like hatchlings who had not yet learned that the universe had teeth, sharp ones, and now, here they were, learning the hardest lesson of all. Do not pick fights with species who have been waging war since before your ancestors discovered fire. Sir, Voss's voice cut through his self-satisfied contemplation. We are receiving a secondary data burst from the reconnaissance drone. Post-strike analysis is coming through now. Put it on screen. Let us see the fruits of our strategic brilliance, shall we? The main display flickered, then resolved into aerial footage of the strike zone. Smoke, debris, fire, all the usual markers of a successful military operation. But then, as the drone's sensors began analyzing the wreckage composition, Thelvok felt his celebratory mood begin to curdle like spoiled nutrition paste. Lieutenant, he said slowly, his voice dropping several octaves. Why am I seeing educational materials in this debris field? Why are there small furniture units? Why, and I want you to answer this very carefully, are there toys scattered across a 300-meter radius? Voss went very still, her mandibles locked in place. Checking the target identification logs now, sir. Stand by, please. Stand by. The bridge had gone silent. Even the usual hum of background systems seemed to have quieted, as if the ship itself was holding its breath. Sir. Voss's voice had become barely a whisper. The target was, according to our intelligence brief, a human military coordination facility, but the post-strike analysis suggests, oh ancestors preserve us, it was actually a civilian structure, specifically an orphanage, a facility for housing and caring for human young who have no parental units. Thelvok's 4 stomachs all clenched simultaneously. An orphanage. We bombed an orphanage. Yes, sir. Approximately 237 human children were inside, ages ranging from infancy to adolescence. Current survivor count is 0, sir. We killed them all, for exactly 3 seconds. Thelvok felt something uncomfortably close to what humans called dread. Then his military training reasserted itself. These things happen in war. Collateral damage. Fog of combat. Intelligence failures. Every species understood this. Surely the humans would. What was their phrase? Get over it. Noted in the report, he said, forcing his voice to remain steady. Intelligence error. Regrettable civilian casualties. Offer the standard reparations package. 10,000 credits per casualty. The usual protocol. And someone, please, double-check our next target coordinates. I would prefer not to accidentally bomb a hospital or whatever other soft flesh facility the humans have cluttered their planet with. The crew returned to their stations, the moment passing like an uncomfortable meal that everyone agreed to forget about. Thelvok did not know it yet, but in that moment, in that casual dismissal, in that assumption that credits could balance scales and apologies could mend flesh, he had made the single greatest tactical error in Krithian military history. The humans were not going to get over it, not even slightly. The Galactic Council chamber looked exactly like what you would expect from a 1,000-year-old bureaucratic institution. Too much marble, too many ceremonial banners, not nearly enough common sense. Consul Brekton, a Valorian whose species prided themselves on diplomatic neutrality, stood at the central podium trying very hard not to panic. The Council acknowledges the Krithian Empire's formal apology and their offer of reparations totaling, let me check my notes here, 2,370,000 credits for the unfortunate incident on Earth. Unfortunate incident. That was what they were calling it. as if someone had spilled cafeteria lunch on someone else's uniform, not vaporized 237 children while they slept. The human representative, a woman named Victoria Hale, sat in Earth's designated seating area. She had not moved in 47 minutes, had not blinked in the last 3, just sat there, hands folded on the table in front of her, face as expressive as a blank wall. Ambassador Hale, Brechtin continued, his vocal sac quivering slightly. The Council urges Earth to accept this generous offer. The Crithian Empire has acknowledged their intelligence failure. They have offered compensation well above standard galactic protocols. Surely we can move past this regrettable situation and return to peaceful coexistence. Yes. Victoria Hale stood up slowly. The chamber went silent. Even the atmospheric recyclers seemed to quiet down. No, she said. Just that. One word. 2 letters. Delivered in a tone that could freeze hydrogen. Excuse me. No? Brechtin's head tilts were becoming increasingly frantic. Ambassador, perhaps you misunderstand the offer. 2 million credits is quite substantial. The Council mediators are prepared to add additional sanctions against the Crithian military command. We can arrange cultural exchanges, educational programs. Surely there is room for negotiation here. No. Victoria picked up her datapad, tucked it under her arm. Earth hereby withdraws from all active diplomatic missions. Our embassies will be closed within 72 hours. Our trade agreements are suspended. Our cultural exchange programs are terminated. Our scientific collaborations are concluded. Good day, Consul. She walked out, just like that. No dramatic speech, no threats, no demands. She simply left. Brechtin looked around the chamber at the assembled representatives from 43 different species. Well, that was certainly. Does anyone have any idea what just happened? Within 6 hours, every single human diplomat had left every single alien world. Within 12 hours, all human commercial vessels had returned to Sol's system. Within 24 hours, the borders of human space had gone completely, utterly, terrifyingly silent. The Lovok watched the news feeds from his quarters, mandibles clicking in what he told himself was amusement but felt suspiciously like anxiety. They are pouting, he said to Voss, who had stopped by with status reports, throwing a tantrum, retreating to their little corner of space to, what is the term? Lick their wounds. They will be back. They always come back. They need our technology, our trade routes, our protection. Yes, sir, Voss said, but her compound eyes kept darting toward the tactical display showing human space. It is just, sir, if I may speak freely. Go ahead, Lieutenant. It is very quiet, sir. Too quiet. Every single human vessel has disappeared from scanners. Every communication channel is dark. It is like they all just vanished. Species do not do that. Not functioning civilizations. Not unless they are planning something. The lug waved a dismissive claw. You worry too much, Voss. They are grieving. It will pass. Everything passes. 48 hours later, the Lovok would remember those words and wish, more than anything in his long military career, that he could reach back through time and strangle his past self for being such an absolute unforgivable fool. Captain Nexler commanded Border Station Theta 7, which was exactly as boring as it sounded. 12 years of service, 12 years of watching empty space, 12 years of filing reports about absolutely nothing happening on the frontier between Crithian and human territory. Until today, Captain, we have contacts emerging from slipspace, his sensor operator announced, tone casual. Multiple vessels, signature reads as human origin. Nexler stretched his lower set of arms, working out the kinks from too many hours in the command seat. Finally, some excitement. Are they sending diplomats? Merchants trying to resume trade? Let me guess. They want to talk about the orphanage situation, work out some kind of agreement. Sir, negative on all counts. The fleet composition is, well, it is strange, sir. Very strange. Define strange, Ensign. I am reading cargo haulers, asteroid mining vessels, colony construction ships, industrial fabrication platforms, a few actual military frigates, yes. But mostly it looks like they just grabbed everything with an engine and pointed it at our border. Nexler felt his mandibles twitch in what might have been amusement. They brought their civilian fleet to intimidate us. Oh, this is rich. This is absolutely precious. Open a communication channel. Let us hear what sort of demands they think they can make with a convoy of glorified space trucks. The communications officer worked her console, then looked up with confusion painted across her features. Sir, they are not responding to hails. I am broadcasting on all standard frequencies. Nothing. They are just coming straight at us. What do you mean coming straight at us? I mean they are not slowing down, sir. They are not requesting parley. They are not broadcasting demands. They are accelerating. Current speed and trajectory will bring them into weapons range in 4 minutes. Nexlar stood up, his earlier amusement evaporating like water in vacuum. Battle stations. Charge all defensive arrays. Scramble our patrol wings. If they want to play games, we will show them how the Krethian military responds to provocation. Someone get me a tactical analysis of their fleet strength. Sir, their military vessels are outnumbered 3-1 by our forces. The civilian ships have no meaningful armament. Our defensive platforms alone should be sufficient to wait. Wait, what are they doing? On the main display, the human fleet split into attack formations with a precision that made Nexlar's combat-trained mind sit up and pay attention. The cargo haulers were not running, they were flanking. The mining vessels were not retreating, they were positioning for envelopment. Sir, the mining ships are deploying their industrial equipment. Plasma torches, kinetic hammers, rock-cutting lasers designed to slice through asteroids. They have turned their civilian tools into weapons, sir. That is absurd. Those are not military-grade systems. They cannot possibly think. The first Krethian patrol ship exploded, just ceased to exist, torn apart by a mining laser that had been designed to cut through solid iron and nickel. Turns out, military-grade armor plating was significantly softer than planetary core material. Evasive action, return fire, all batteries engage at will. What followed was not a battle. Battles implied some level of back and forth, some give and take. This was an extermination. The human cargo haulers used their massive bulk as battering rams, their reinforced hulls designed to survive asteroid collisions, making them effectively immune to light weapons fire. The colony construction ships deployed swarms of automated work drones, thousands of them, each one reprogrammed to identify Krethian life signs and terminate them. The fabrication platforms began manufacturing munitions in real time, spitting out missiles as fast as their industrial printers could assemble them. And through it all, not a single word from the humans. No battle cries, no demands for surrender, no offer of quarter, just cold, methodical, horrifyingly efficient destruction. All ships retreat, fall back to... Captain Nexlar never finished that sentence. His bridge exploded around him as a retrofitted ore processor demonstrated that the same magnetic accelerators used to launch refined minerals could also launch depleted uranium slugs at relativistic speeds. Border Station Theta 7 went silent. All 17 defense platforms went silent. 43 patrol vessels went silent. 612 Krethian military personnel went silent, permanently. Across the galaxy, monitoring stations belonging to 24 different species watched the tactical feeds in absolute horror. The Valorian Diplomatic Corps immediately began drafting emergency peace proposals. The Thexian Trade Federation started calculating how fast they could distance themselves from Krethian space. And on 17 different worlds, military strategists began furiously updating their threat assessment files on humanity. The section labeled Human Warfare Doctrine had just been upgraded from developing to existential threat. Avoid at all costs. And the humans? They said nothing. They just moved on to the next Krethian outpost. Then the next. Then the next. No survivors. No communication. No mercy. The broadcast came 3 days after Border Station Theta 7 stopped existing. It went out on every channel, every frequency, every communication network in known space. You could not ignore it if you tried. And believe me, several species tried very, very hard. A human appeared on screens across the galaxy. Admiral Keiko Oren. She wore a simple military uniform. No decorations, no flourishes. Her face looked like it had been carved from stone and then taught to hate. To all species of the Galactic Council, this is Admiral Keiko Oren of the United Earth Defense Force. We are broadcasting to inform you of a policy change. Consul Brechton, watching from the council chambers, felt his diplomatic instinct screaming at him. Policy change. They were calling it a policy change, like adjusting tax rates or updating trade regulation. 72 hours ago, the Krethian Empire destroyed a civilian facility on Earth. They killed 237 children. They offered us money. They suggested we move on. Oren's voice never changed pitch, never wavered. It was the vocal equivalent of a guillotine blade, cold and final. We decline. She paused, and in that pause you could hear the entire galaxy holding its breath. Humanity is now operating under a doctrine called total war. For those species unfamiliar with the concept, allow me to explain. Total war means that every single asset of the Crithian Empire is now a legitimate military target. Every factory, every shipyard, every space station, every trade route, every fuel depot, every communications relay, every financial institution, every cultural center, everything. On Krithia Prime, Thalvok watched the broadcast from High Command headquarters, his four stomachs turning to ice. She cannot be serious. The Galactic Convention on Warfare explicitly prohibits targeting civilian infrastructure. There are rules, protocols, boundaries. Military targets will be destroyed or discontinued. Economic targets will be destroyed. Your supply chains will be destroyed. Your ability to wage war will be destroyed. Your ability to fund war will be destroyed. Your will to wage war will be destroyed. There will be no negotiation. There will be no peace talks. There will be no ceasefire. There will be no white flags. A tactical officer next to the VOC pulled up the relevant sections of galactic military law. Sir, she is describing at least 47 separate violations of the Convention on Warfare. Minimum, if they actually implement this doctrine, they will be violating every established norm of civilized combat. The Council will have to intervene. They will have to stop this. The rules of engagement are as follows, Orin said, and the Lovo could swear he saw the ghost of a smile cross her face. There are none. We will accept no surrender until every individual who authorized the strike on the Bright Harbor Children's Home is in human custody. We will negotiate no terms until every person in the Crethian command structure who approved that target is standing trial. We will show no mercy until we receive what was never shown to 237 sleeping children. Brechtin was already trying to establish a communication link, his appendages flying across his console. Get me a direct line to Admiral Orin, immediately. We need to mediate this before it spirals further. The Council has authority. The Galactic Council may feel free to file a formal complaint, Orin said as if she could hear Brechtin's thoughts across space. We will consider it carefully. Then we will ignore it completely. Earth is withdrawing from the Convention on Warfare, effective immediately. We no longer recognize galactic military law. We no longer accept Council authority on matters of human security. You created this situation when you suggested that credits could replace children. Now you get to live with the consequences. The screen went dark. For 10 full seconds, the council chamber was silent. Then it erupted into chaos. 17 species began talking at once. 6 demanded immediate sanctions on humanity. 4 suggested military intervention. 2 started planning evacuation routes in case the humans decided to expand their definition of involved parties. The Lobok sat in his command chair, all 4 arms hanging limply at his sides. Vos, he said quietly. How many people were directly involved in authorizing the strike on that facility, including support staff, intelligence analysts and command approval, sir? About 40 people, give or take. And they want all 40 of us? It appears so, sir. Lovok looked at his claws, noticing for the first time how they trembled. We bombed an orphanage, offered them pocket change, and assumed they would just accept it. We treated the murder of their young like a minor accounting error. What were we thinking? We were thinking they were weak, sir. We were wrong. Outside the window, Thalvok could see the orbital defense platforms powering up, preparing for an assault that every tactical bone in his body told him they could not possibly win. They had killed children and expected civilization in return. Instead, they had awakened something far older than civilization, far more primal, far more terrifying. They had awakened human wrath, and the universe was about to learn why that particular force had kept humanity's own worst impulses in check for so long. Because when humans finally let that leash slip, when they stopped trying to be civilized and started remembering how to be apex predators, well, the galaxy was simply not ready for what came next. The humans did not just wage war, they performed surgery, brutal, methodical, horrifyingly precise surgery on the entire Crithian civilization. Week 1, they targeted the military supply chains. Every fuel depot within 50 light-years of Crithian space simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed in glorious battle, mind you, just gone. Evaporated by long-range weapons fired from positions the Crithians could not even detect, let alone counter. Week 2, the economic infrastructure. The Crithian central banking network went offline when human cyber warfare specialists, and let us be honest here, those are just hackers with official uniforms, introduced a virus so sophisticated it made the system administrators weep. Every credit, every transaction, every financial record, corrupted beyond recovery. The Crithian economy did not crash, It simply stopped existing. Ambassador Prill of the Savant Collective watched from her monitoring station. All 6 of her eye stalks focused on the tactical displays. "This is not war," she muttered to her aide. This is art. Terrible, horrible, magnificent art. Look at this. They just destroyed the primary agricultural processing facility on Krithia 7. Not the military base next to it. Not the spaceport. Just the food processing plant. Now that entire colony is dependent on imports that can no longer arrive because the humans destroyed the shipping lanes last week. Should we intervene, Ambassador? Intervene? Are you insane? Did you not see what they did to Border Station Theta 7? No, we watch. We take notes. We learn. And we thank whatever deities we worship that we never ever make humans this angry. Week 3 brought the psychological warfare. The humans hacked into Krithian communication networks and began broadcasting messages. Not threats, not propaganda, just information, names, faces, personal details. They published the complete service records of every single person involved in authorizing the orphanage strike, home addresses, family connections, daily routines, favorite restaurants. They turned 40 military officers into hunted animals without firing a single shot. "Sir, we are receiving reports that Lieutenant Commander Draxil has fled to Valorian space," Voss reported to Thalvok. "He is requesting asylum. The Valorian government is considering granting it." The Lauvok, who had not slept in 4 days, made a sound somewhere between a laugh and a sob. "They will not protect him. No one will protect any of us. The humans have made that abundantly clear." He was right. 2 days later, Lieutenant Commander Draxil was found dead in his secured Valorian sanctuary apartment. Official cause of death, heart failure. Unofficial cause of death, a human infiltration team that was in and out before Valorian security even knew the building had been breached. The humans left a note, handwritten, placed carefully on Draxil's chest. It read, "1 down, 39 to go." The Valorian government immediately announced it would no longer be accepting Krithian refugees. Neither would anyone else. Week 4. The cultural targets. This was when the other species really started to understand just how creative humans could be with destruction. The Museum of Krithian Heritage. A building that had stood for 800 years, containing irreplaceable artifacts from Krithian history, was not bombed. That would have been too simple, too quick. Instead, the humans broke in, cataloged every single item, created perfect 3-dimensional scans of everything, uploaded all of it to a public database titled Krithian Culture, preserved for posterity since your government decided child murder was acceptable, and then, only then, burned the building to the ground. The message was clear. We are not destroying you in rage. We are destroying you with intent, with purpose, with the kind of cold, calculated precision that only comes from beings who have thought this through, and decided, yes, this is exactly what we want to do. Observer Trent of the Hexarian Monitoring Service filed his weekly report with shaking appendages. Human forces continue to demonstrate unprecedented coordination. They are fighting a war across 47 star systems simultaneously. They are tracking individual targets across the galaxy. They have infiltrated secure facilities on 18 different worlds. Their intelligence gathering capabilities exceed anything in our database by a factor of, well, I cannot even calculate it. It is like they have eyes everywhere, like they know everything. How are they doing that? The answer, though no one wanted to say it out loud, was simple. Humans had spent their entire evolutionary history hunting, not just hunting animals, hunting each other. They had turned warfare into a science, then an art, then a religion. They had practiced on themselves for 10,000 years, perfecting the art of finding things that did not want to be found and killing things that did not want to die. Now, they were hunting Krithians. And Krithians had no idea how to be prey. Week 6, Colonel Vixtal was extracted from a secure bunker on Krithia Prime itself. 2 down, 38 to go. Week 8, Captain Reltor and Major Kixfar were captured during a desperate escape attempt to neutral space. 4 down, 36 to go. Week 10, 3 more officers simply vanished from protective custody. The humans did not even bother leaving notes anymore. 7 down, 33 to go. The Lauvok watched the list grow shorter and felt his world grow smaller. They were coming. Not quickly, not recklessly, but inevitably, like time itself had gained malicious intent and decided his name was next on the schedule. "Voss," he said one night, staring at the tactical display showing the slow, patient, inexorable advance of human forces. "Do you know what the most terrifying part of this is?" "The efficiency, sir." "No. The patience. They are not rushing. They are not making mistakes. They are taking their time because they know, they absolutely know, that we have nowhere to go, that no one will protect us, that eventually, whether it takes months or years, they will have every single one of us. That is not anger, Voss. Anger burns hot and fast. This is something worse. This is justice. Human justice. And it turns out that is the most frightening force in the galaxy. Outside, another Krithian military installation went silent. Another name was crossed off the list. Another step closer to the inevitable conclusion. The hunt continued. They came for the Lovok on a Tuesday, which was ironic because Tuesday was the human name for the day, and it seemed fitting that he would be captured using their calendar system. No dramatic assault. No massive battle. Just 6 human soldiers who walked through his command center's defenses like they were not even there. The folk did not even bother reaching for his sidearm. What would be the point? Commander Thalvok, the lead human said, her voice professionally neutral. You are hereby detained for trial under Earth Tribunal authority. You have the right to legal representation. You have the right to present evidence in your defense. You will be afforded every protection under human law. Do you understand these rights? And that, right there, was the most terrifying part. They were going to give him a fair trial, a legitimate, legally sound, procedurally perfect trial, and then they were going to kill him anyway. The trial took place on a human ship, broadcast live across every communication network in the galaxy. The courtroom was small, plain, efficient, no theatrical flourishes, no dramatic staging, just a judge, a prosecutor, a defense attorney who actually tried to defend him, bless her earnest human heart, and a jury of 12 human civilians. The prosecution began simply. The defendant authorized a military strike on a civilian target, specifically, the Bright Harbor Children's Home. 237 children died. We will now present evidence. What followed was not a legal proceeding. It was a eulogy, a memorial, a counting of souls. Emma Rodriguez, age 4. Loved drawing pictures of stars. Wanted to be an astronaut. A photo appeared on the screen. A small human child smiling, holding up a crayon drawing. James Park, age 7. Genius level aptitude in mathematics. Enjoyed teaching younger children how to count. Another photo. Another face. Another life snuffed out. Aisha Kimani, age 12. Survivor of the Mars colony disaster. Had just started learning to trust again after losing her parents. Another photo. This child was not smiling. She looked cautious, guarded, like she knew the universe could take everything away in an instant. And she had been right. They went through all 237. Every name. Every face. Every story. Every dream that would never be fulfilled. Every laugh that would never be heard. Every birthday that would never be celebrated. It took 6 hours. The jury wept. The defense attorney wept. Even the judge had to call for a recess twice. The Lovok felt something crack inside his chest. These were not statistics. Not collateral damage. Not acceptable losses. These were people. Small people. Innocent people. People who had done nothing. Knew nothing. Threatened nothing. Commander Thulak, the prosecutor said, her voice rough from emotion. Do you have anything to say? What could he say? That he had not known. He had known. He had seen the post-strike analysis. He had dismissed it. That he was following orders. He had given the orders. That war was complicated. Nothing complicated about murdering children in their beds. I am sorry, he finally managed. I am so sorry. Sorry does not bring them back. The prosecutor replied. Sorry does not undo what you did. Sorry is not enough. It will never be enough. The jury deliberated for 47 minutes. Guilty on all counts. The sentence was death. Quick. Painless. More humane than what his victims had received. The execution was carried out immediately, professionally, without ceremony. The Lovok's last thought right before the end was that he deserved worse. Across the galaxy, billions of beings watched the proceedings. The Galactic Council issued 17 different statements, all of them saying variations of the same thing. The humans had followed their own laws perfectly. The trial had been fair. The evidence had been overwhelming. The sentence had been proportional under human legal doctrine, and that was somehow more terrifying than if they had just killed Dulvok in rage. Ambassador Prill summarized it best in her official report. Humanity has demonstrated something we failed to understand. They are not a violent species. They are a justice-oriented species. Violence is simply the tool they employ when justice cannot be achieved through other means. They gave the Lovok a fair trial. They presented evidence. They allowed a defense. They followed every rule of law they have established for themselves, and then they executed him, because their laws demanded it. This is not the action of barbarians. This is the action of a civilization that takes its principles so seriously it will burn down empires to uphold them. The remaining 32 officers on the list surrendered within a week. They all received the same treatment: fair trials, overwhelming evidence, legal representation, guilty verdicts, quick executions. The humans kept their word. When the last officer was sentenced, when the last name was crossed off the list, the war ended. Just like that. Human forces withdrew. Trade routes reopened. Diplomats returned. The humans went back to being polite, friendly, eager participants in galactic society. But nobody forgot. Nobody would ever forget. The galaxy had learned something profound about humanity. They could be pushed. They could be diplomatic. They could be patient. They could even be forgiving. But if you hurt their children, if you murdered their innocent, if you crossed that particular line, well, then you got to meet the other side of humanity. The side that had climbed to the top of their food chain by being better at violence than anything else on their planet. The side that had stopped fighting each other only because they had run out of enemies and had to invent new reasons to cooperate. The side that knew exactly how to wage total war, because they had practiced on themselves for millennia. Commander Thelvok had learned this lesson. He had learned it completely, thoroughly, and far too late. They came for the Lovok on a Tuesday, which was ironic because Tuesday was the human name for the day, and it seemed fitting that he would be captured using their calendar system. No dramatic assault. No massive battle. Just 6 human soldiers who walked through his command center's defenses like they were not even there. Thelvok did not even bother reaching for his sidearm. What would be the point? Commander Thelvok, the lead human said, her voice professionally neutral. You are hereby detained for trial under Earth Tribunal authority. You have the right to legal representation. You have the right to present evidence in your defense. You will be afforded every protection under human law. Do you understand these rights? And that, right there, was the most terrifying part. They were going to give him a fair trial, a legitimate, legally sound, procedurally perfect trial, and then they were going to kill him anyway. The trial took place on a human ship, broadcast live across every communication network in the galaxy. The courtroom was small, plain, efficient, no theatrical flourishes, no dramatic staging, just a judge, a prosecutor, a defense attorney who actually tried to defend him, bless her earnest human heart, and a jury of 12 human civilians. The prosecution began simply. The defendant authorized a military strike on a civilian target, specifically, the Bright Harbor Children's Home. 237 children died. We will now present evidence. What followed was not a legal proceeding. It was a eulogy, a memorial, a counting of souls. Emma Rodriguez, age 4, loved drawing pictures of stars, wanted to be an astronaut. A photo appeared on the screen. A small human child smiling, holding up a crayon drawing. James Park, age 7, genius-level aptitude in mathematics, enjoyed teaching younger children how to count. Another photo, another face, another life snuffed out. Ayesha Kamani, age 12, survivor of the Mars colony disaster, had just started learning to trust again after losing her parents. Another photo. This child was not smiling. She looked cautious, guarded, like she knew the universe could take everything away in an instant, and she had been right. They went through all 237, every name, every face, every story, every dream that would never be fulfilled, every laugh that would never be heard, every birthday that would never be celebrated. It took 6 hours. The jury wept. The defense attorney wept. Even the judge had to call for a recess twice. Thelvok felt something crack inside his chest. These were not statistics, not collateral damage, not acceptable losses. These were people, small people, innocent people, people who had done nothing, knew nothing, threatened nothing. Commander Thelvok, the prosecutor said, her voice rough from emotion. Do you have anything to say? What could he say? That he had not known. He had known. He had seen the post-strike analysis. He had dismissed it, that he was following orders. He had given the orders, that war was complicated. Nothing complicated about murdering children in their beds. I am sorry, he finally managed. I am so sorry. Sorry does not bring them back, the prosecutor replied. Sorry does not undo what you did. Sorry is not enough. It will never be enough. The jury deliberated for 47 minutes. Guilty on all counts. The sentence was death. Quick, painless, more humane than what his victims had received. The execution was carried out immediately, professionally, without ceremony. The Lock's last thought right before the end was that he deserved worse. Across the galaxy, billions of beings watched the proceedings. The Galactic Council issued 17 different statements, all of them saying variations of the same thing. The humans had followed their own laws perfectly. The trial had been fair. The evidence had been overwhelming. The sentence had been proportional under human legal doctrine, and that was somehow more terrifying than if they had just killed the Levok in rage. Ambassador Prill summarized it best in her official report. Humanity has demonstrated something we failed to understand. They are not a violent species. They are a justice-oriented species. Violence is simply the tool they employ when justice cannot be achieved through other means. They gave the Levok a fair trial. They presented evidence. They allowed a defense. They followed every rule of law they have established for themselves. And then they executed him, because their laws demanded it. This is not the action of barbarians. This is the action of a civilization that takes its principles so seriously it will burn down empires to uphold them. The remaining 32 officers on the list surrendered within a week. They all received the same treatment. Fair trials, overwhelming evidence, legal representation, guilty verdicts, quick execution. The humans kept their word. When the last officer was sentenced, when the last name was crossed off the list, the war ended, just like that. Human forces withdrew. Trade routes reopened. Diplomats returned. The humans went back to being polite, friendly, eager participants in galactic society. But nobody forgot. Nobody would ever forget. The galaxy had learned something profound about humanity. They could be pushed. They could be diplomatic. They could be patient. They could even be forgiving. But if you hurt their children, if you murdered their innocent, if you crossed that particular line, well, then you got to meet the other side of humanity. The side that had climbed to the top of their food chain by being better at violence than anything else on their planet. The side that had stopped fighting each other only because they had run out of enemies and had to invent new reasons to cooperate. The side that knew exactly how to wage total war, because they had practiced on themselves for millennia. Commander Thelvok had learned this lesson. He had learned it completely, thoroughly, and far too late. 6 months after the last execution, Consul Brecton stood before the Galactic Council to announce the passage of Resolution 7074-3, formally titled The Protection of Civilian Populations in Armed Conflict Act. Informally, everyone called it the Do Not Make the Humans Angry Law. The Council has voted unanimously, Brecton announced, his vocal sac inflating with what he hoped looked like dignified authority rather than residual terror. Any military strike against civilian targets, particularly those housing young or vulnerable populations, will now be classified as a Class 1 atrocity. Perpetrators will face immediate sanctions, complete economic isolation, and mandatory extradition to the offended party for trial. All in favor say aye. 43 voices said aye. Loudly, enthusiastically. No one wanted a repeat performance of the Crithian situation. No one wanted to be on the receiving end of human justice. The human delegation, led by Victoria Hale, who had returned to her diplomatic post, nodded politely. Earth appreciates the Council's commitment to protecting innocent lives. We look forward to continued cooperation. She did not mention the 3 human battle fleets now permanently stationed at strategic points throughout the galaxy. She did not need to. Everyone could see them on their long-range scanners. Everyone understood what they represented. Insurance. A reminder. A promise that if it happened again, the response would be just as swift and just as thorough. Trade between Earth and the rest of the galaxy resumed. Cultural exchanges restarted. Scientific collaborations continued. The humans were perfectly pleasant, perfectly professional, perfectly friendly, but things had changed. When human diplomats entered a room, other species made space. When human merchants negotiated contracts, they got favorable terms. When human scientists proposed collaborations, they got approved. Not because of threats, not because of explicit intimidation, but because everyone remembered, everyone knew. Ambassador Prill found herself sharing a transport with a human liaison officer named Robert Chen. Nice fellow, told terrible jokes, loved gardening, had personally commanded one of the strike teams that had dismantled Crethian infrastructure. Can I ask you something? Prill said, her eyes swiveling to focus on him. And I mean no offense by this question. Go ahead, Ambassador. Your species, you seem so peaceful, so interested in art and music and cooperation. How do you reconcile that with what you did to the Crithians? How do you switch between being poets and philosophers one moment and being, well, that, the next moment? Robert was quiet for a long moment, staring out the viewport at the stars rushing past. We do not switch, Ambassador. We are always both. Every human carries both capacities inside them at all times. We create beautiful art because we understand destruction. We value peace because we know the cost of war. We protect our children so fiercely because we remember when we failed to protect them. The capacity for violence and the capacity for compassion. They are not opposites. They are partners. You cannot truly value life unless you understand death. You cannot truly want peace unless you are capable of waging war. That is a terrifying philosophy. Yes, Robert agreed. Yes, it is. But it is honest. We are not pretending to be something we are not. We are not hiding our nature. We are just choosing every single day to be the better version of ourselves. Unless someone gives us a reason to choose differently. Prill thought about that for a long time. On Krithia Prime, the new government erected a memorial, 237 names carved into stone, with a simple inscription underneath. We forgot that mercy must be earned. We forgot that civilization is a choice. We forgot that some lines must never be crossed. May we never forget again. Levac had been right about one thing. All those months ago, humans were soft. They cried easily. They felt deeply. They formed emotional attachments to the strangest things. They wrote poetry about flowers and sang songs about love. But soft things can also be sharp. Compassion and cruelty, it turns out, are not opposites. They are two sides of the same coin, and humans carried that coin in their pocket at all times, ready to flip it depending on how you treated them. The galaxy had called humans primitive, had dismissed them as newcomers, had assumed their emotions made them weak. Turns out, emotions do not make you weak. They make you dangerous. Because beings who feel deeply also protect deeply. Beings who love fiercely also fight fiercely. And beings who value innocence will absolutely burn down your entire civilization if you dare to harm it. The Krithian Empire learned this lesson. The galaxy learned this lesson. And somewhere, in a classroom on Earth, 237 empty desks served as a reminder that humanity had learned something too. That they would never ever let it happen again. Not to their children. Not on their watch. Not while a single human drew breath. The age of underestimating humanity was over. The age of consequence had begun, and the universe for once was paying attention.